Hi, everyone, and welcome to Legacy Circle. My name is Sienna Calderon, and I am the creator and founder behind Legacy Circle. So, this is our first episode, our first interview. I'm so excited to bring you guys into this new project that I've been working on. It truly is an extension of who I am. So essentially, Legacy Circle is a community. We are a circle of people that want to help propel the Black and Latino legacy. And really, the idea behind it came from just wanting to share our stories, wanting to spread knowledge, embrace our culture, and truly come together as a collective and make an impact in our community. So, what you can expect every week, we will have a different topic and we will have a blog post, and following that, we'll have an interview. So, we are in Houston, so majority of our guests will be Houston locals, but you can expect a variety of people. We're going to have your entrepreneurs, your community leaders. We're even going to interview like my grandfather. So just to get a different different stories. We want everyone. We know that everyone has such a unique story to share. And if you have an impact and you want to, bring positivity to our community, then we're on board with you. So with that being said, I want to introduce our first guest today, Adonis Alexander. He is he is the owner of Diverscity Clothing. We are really excited to have you here today. So how me and Adonis met, we met about 2 years ago when I first came out here. No. I've been here for 2 years, so about 2 years ago.
Okay. Maybe it feels like a long time.
It feels like a long time. But I met him, and the reason I want to share his story is because it just really showcases like who we are here at Legacy Circle, the type of people that we want to bring on. So I met him. I was working at a food truck, and you were selling your clothes, and I don't know how we started talking, but we really just vibe. We connected that day over like food and traveling, and I invited you to my event, which was like I think like a week or two later. And I remember sending a text to everybody afterwards, just thanking them for coming. And Adonis sent me this really, really nice text and was just like embracing me and was like, not only were you like, like, thank you for I appreciate you inviting me, but this was, like Anthony Bourdain style, and
yeah.
I mean, it just felt good to be embraced by somebody, especially someone who is a fellow entrepreneur that understands what it means to really grind, really work hard, and the vulnerability that it takes to showcase your work, right? Like, it takes guts to showcase, your art and do it in a way that means something to you, right? So I really appreciated that. But that really showcases what we want to do here on Legacy Circle. We want to, support and uplift people because it's hard sometimes, but to give people their flowers and to give people credit, it does a lot, right? So for today's topic, we're going to be talking about embracing culture. So I know that that's something that is really true to what your brand is about, who you are as a person. So if you could kind of just introduce your brand and who you are to everybody.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I own Diverscity Clothing Company. I created it to be the official, unofficial brand of Houston. Just kind of embracing everything that's positive here to really give us a chance to have like our own brand that basically allows us to control the narrative or our narrative to the national media. I feel like for a long time that's kind of been done for us. They kind of told us who we were, but we've never really gotten to tell our own side of who we are, and instead of being kind of branded in certain ways. So yeah, the brand was, to fill a void, give the city something that it needed, something it deserved, and not only that, but to also just be stylish and comfortable at the same time. All the way around. How many times have you come across a shirt that maybe it looks good but it doesn't feel good, or maybe it feels good and doesn't look good? Like,
Right.
is it really that hard to get it all right? And that's what I wanted us to have as a city, is something that we could all embrace. It feels good, looks good. You feel obligated or even inspired to put it in your suitcase when you go to travel different places. You want to, because you want everybody to know where you're from, because you have that pride, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about uh, it not fitting where you're going. It's versatile like that. So
Yeah.
that's what kind of inspired the brand to be created in the beginning.
And you're showcasing one of your shirts too.
I
So
am.
this was this is one of the newest ones, right?
So this is the classic best-selling design, but this is the first time I've actually had it on the basketball jersey,
Okay.
and just to show you just how I always wanted the brand to really be different from other brands around the country, because our climate here is so unique. So obviously, this is the baseball. This is baseball inspired, but baseball is played during the summer, and summers in Houston are. I mean, if you know, you know.
Hot.
It's pretty brutal. So I was just like, why don't we have any cooler options?
Yeah.
And I always tell like my customers, you're a Houston brand when you have to carry hoodies and tank tops year round. So other brands, other parts of the country, they probably go through all the seasons. They stop making swimsuits. They stop making hoodies. Whatever. We're gonna do those things year round because we have that kind of weather year round.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of combining too, like the streetwear into it, right? Like
Right.
it's like classic meets street. I like it. Um, so I want to ask, so why is embracing culture and community so important? I guess just to you, like growing up, why was it so important to showcase and that be part of like your identity? Like, I'm from Houston, this is why I'm from Houston. Or if you've ever like traveled or anything, what was that like for you to be like, I'm from Houston, right? Like, I came from this
Uh,
place.
I mean, I think most people embrace where they're from. Even if where they're from may not be the best of places. Like, if that's where you're
Yeah.
from, that's where you're from. But for me personally, growing up in Houston, um, I just felt like not only were we kind of overlooked nationally a lot, I felt like we were slightly a little disrespected in some instances as well, from a national perspective. I would be watching a sporting event or some type of event, and if that event took place in New York or LA, man, everybody would be so like all the journalists would be, we're live from Staples Center, we're live from LA, we're live from SoCal. Everybody
Yeah.
put their stamp on it. But if they were shooting something in Houston, we're live from Texas. And it was just like I would notice things like that, and I was saying to myself like, man, like why do they do us like that?
Yeah.
We would be doing a lot of great things in the city that where if you read about it, it was nationally known, but Houston was never that type of place that really just kind of put out there what they were doing that was great on that level. So yeah, for me, I always kind of imagine, even as like a teenager, that maybe one day I had in my mind that maybe Houston would get its flowers and kind of be
Yeah.
recognized. I would have never thought it would have happened as fast as it did, because as a kid you dream, about people kind of accepting you in that way as a city, but
Right.
the way it just kind of took off from Houston being known as a diverse place, Houston being known as a food capital, a cultural capital, it all kind of like it just kind of really went 0 to 100 like really fast, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was just all of a sudden it was like Houston was one of the hottest cities in the country. It's like, man, just 10 years ago we were being overlooked. Now everybody's moving here. It was just like all that kind of happened. It feels like in a matter of like a year or two. You know.
Right. Guilty. No, but and we've been we've talked about this. Like, it definitely, like, even me coming out here, like, I can say like you are one of those people that really has shown me what Houston is like. Whether it's telling me like a different spot to go to, or showing me like the history. Like I finally actually went to the I actually forgot to tell you the Manil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually finally went there, and I'm like,
how many people know about the Manil?
Right? Like, actually, matter of fact, I was telling one of my friends, and he's actually from Houston. He was like, I was like, oh, like I'm in the city, and at this one, museum. He was like, oh, he kept listing like all the other ones, like the contemporary or the modern, whatever. And I'm like, no. And I was like explaining to him, and he was like, oh, I don't know. Like it didn't register. Like he didn't really know where it was. And I was like, oh, okay. But like going there, and I'm like, this is a free thing, right? And there's history behind it, and there's like all sorts of types of art. And even if you're not really into it, like you'll get something out of it, right? And just having it in your backyard, like,
it's really
overlooked.
It's really prestigious internationally, honestly. And the story behind it is it's very interesting to see how it's actually tied to the oil and gas industry and Schlumberger as well. So it's basically the Schlumberger's personal art collection.
That's crazy. Well, okay, so you shared with me kind of like you growing up in Houston. How has that changed from what it is now, and where do you think it can go?
How things changed from when I was growing up to how it is now? Man, definitely some things that were just what we considered normal is now considered historical now. I guess you could say, like a lot of the stuff that we used to listen to, the Fat Pats and the Slim Thugs and all that kind of stuff was just like that's middle school. That's what we did. You went to the cafeteria, you did your beat on the desk, and you were trying to be like Lil Flip, to be the freestyle king. All of that stuff. Now, a lot of those songs that we were listening to, now they're considered like anytime those songs come on in any setting, the whole entire city stops what they're doing and they dance and they show that appreciation for it. Right. So, I would have never guessed anything. I would have never thought I would have seen the H-Town All-Stars perform at the rodeo in front of 75,000 people. Yeah. That used to be like cafeteria room stuff, So it's almost like it became cool it became cool to be from Houston, to be an original born and raised Houstonian. And I personally kind of took it as, you kind of have a little responsibility to kind of educate others who may not have been around that whole time to kind of understand where we came from, what it is, why the Astrodome is so important, right. The Galleria Mall, NASA, Galveston, and all those things and where it all fits in. So definitely now it's more of a, it also didn't used to really be a destination that like people were kind of passing through before, maybe because they had to, because they were on business and, I'm stopping in Houston and let me get on to Chicago or LA, New York after I'm done.
Yeah.
But now Houston is actually a destination that actually shows up. If you notice, it'll actually show up on one of those Expedia or Travelocity ads as a destination to actual like tourists travel to, which it was never like that before. Who travels to Houston? What kind of what somebody would say back in the 90s or even like the early 2000s. Everybody knew Austin, everybody knew Dallas, and even San Antonio. In my opinion, is probably the most tourist-friendly city in the state. But Houston was never like a destination. Like we got to go to Houston because we're looking forward to it. But now, Houston has that reputation because it's so funny because Houston has never really been a necessarily aesthetically nice-looking city when it comes to like we don't have any mountains. We don't have, South Beach, Miami. We don't have those things. So for people to want to come here, it would have to be for different reasons. And those reasons have solidly become the people, the food, and the atmosphere. That's Houston all the way.
Absolutely. So with that being said, like, what do you think will be that like driving force to elevate Houston? As far as like improvements go.
To elevate Houston? That's a good question. Because it's come so far in such a short amount of time. I guess I've never really thought about where where it has left to go. I do think the population will continue to grow drastically
Yeah.
as more and more people start to move here, and more living is being built. Um, but I think I'm gonna have to think about that one a little bit. 'Cause that's an interesting question. What's the next big moment for
Right.
our next level for the city to achieve? I'm
Well,
gonna
I
think on
guess
that.
I mean what we were talking about before we got into the interview, like the fact that you have you know people that are having these boards, trying to bring people together, trying to
Right.
do different things. So I guess like, can you shed light on different people
That's
that
a good point.
that are trying to do that right now
That's a
here
good
in
point.
Houston?
That's one of the things that Houston hasn't necessarily been a front runner at, and that's film and being able to shoot things here because of it being financially reasonable or have incentives like a city like Atlanta or Hollywood. I do think that that is the next phase of things. And I'm glad you brought that out because that really is the next phase of things. Being able to do more things like that, especially with because unlike those other cities, Houston also has the tax situation is better than a lot of
Exactly.
cities. A lot of those things are cheaper, but some of the some of the tax incentives for filming and entertainment aren't necessarily the same as that, and they could definitely improve so that we could do more here instead of having to go elsewhere to do those things. But I do see those things coming because now you have folks like myself and others that are now like working on those things to bring that to Houston. So that's definitely that's a good point. That's definitely a next phase for the city reaching that next level.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I think too, you do bring a point of like um film and media really, because I'm from San Francisco, and it's like people always like, oh, like the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff like that, but they saw
Mm,
that in movies, right?
right.
Like they didn't really know that what Golden Gate Bridge was, right? So it's
Yeah.
like they did see that in movies, and that's what gets people going. Because if not, it's like, oh, okay, well, Houston's known for the clubs, but like, what else? Like
Right.
we have families, we have other types of people that want to come out here, right? Um, so I want to ask, so you growing up here in the community that you were a part of, what positive message did they kind of impose on you, or like values that now you share or want to spread through like your business?
Where I grew up at,
Yeah.
um, hmm, yeah, that's a pretty interesting one because uh, I grew up on the south side of Houston. I guess you could consider it the hood, not the worst of hoods, but it was indeed the hood. We're a close knit street. If we ever saw anybody that came on our street, it always looked kind of suspicious because we didn't really have any visitors and all our neighbors. We all knew each other. And we were pretty close knit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but we were but we kind of were like family. We really stayed to ourselves and we really looked out for each other. A lot of us went to school together as well, and if anything, I probably learned community from the start. Uh, and in that community, it was even growing up, it was pretty versatile because I actually went to school. I would always wonder in my class in elementary because we had a lot of Vietnamese kids in my class, and I always wondered, even though as a kid you don't think about race or ethnicity and those things as much, I did know that they were different and they had different accents. And I always kind of
Mm.
wondered, like how did they get there? Like where did they come from? What were their experiences? I wondered that as a kid, and I always kind of wanted to know that. I actually didn't know their full story until kind of Anthony Bourdain explained it on his Parts Unknown episode of when he did Houston about how a lot of them came after the Vietnam War
Yeah.
and became strippers, other things, and kind of came to the community that way. But yeah, I learned a lot of that from where I grew up, just community, seeing the diversity from a young age, and really, you just kind of learn. basic principles of life from just that street code that everybody had. Like there's certain things you didn't do, certain people you didn't cross, certain people you stayed away from.
Yeah.
You know, certain things you went about it, and those things do they do make you smarter as you grow older.
Yeah, and I will say I think in you being a part of diversity and having that word diversity be the name of your business, I can truly say, like, I've gone to different events of yours, and I tell you, like, it is a very versatile brand because I do see different ethnicities buying your clothes, different ages, like all sorts of types of people, like,
Yeah.
and it'll be like different styles too that they'll be into, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that it brings a sense of community, right?
Yeah.
For people to be able to put it on and feel like they are repping something, right?
Right.
And that they're a part of it, right? Like you
And
have
that's important.
Yeah, like you have that shirt that has like all the different languages, right?
Right.
I feel like that really, when somebody sees something that they see themselves in, right? Like
wow. Yeah.
it really transcends, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about like, like I said, you've always been that person to share with me like places to go in Houston. So okay, so if somebody had like 24 hours in Houston, what are like the places like to eat or to go to? What would you like? You're their guide for the day.
Man, 24 hours. Definitely. You know what? I would probably so I'm a how do you say this? I'm very I like touristy things, but I like to know what people really do on a Friday night where they're from. Like I like what the locals do, knowing that, because I want to know that I'm getting an authentic experience when I'm going to another city, and so I want the same thing when someone comes here. So like one of the things I have on my list for a day is somebody's coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I feel like you should make a meal at home, like cook at home, because that's like a common thing.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
But after experiencing HEB, like I feel like you should take everyone to HEB and like just shop for like a specific meal and like show them how cool of a grocery store this is. That you can get all these different things, this fresh produce, even the house brand that has really good stuff, because it was rated the #1 grocery store in the country, and I feel like that should be on the list of, like, I feel like you would remember that experience. We went to HEB, we saw this fresh squeezed juice.
I feel like you could start off with that and then like like buy your ingredients and then go home, make a dish.
Make it, but then maybe go out to eat later on.
Yeah, go out to eat later on for sure.
And just kind of make it a bit well-rounded. Definitely would take them by the Galleria, of course. You got to see Texas' largest mall.
Yeah.
Definitely. If they're playing, definitely maybe take them by Minute Maid Park. If the Astros are playing,
okay.
I mean, that's like one of the greatest teams of all time. So you definitely gotta see that. Maybe do a ride by the Astrodome so you can kind of see that history. Depending on if we're doing like a real sit down meal or maybe something fast that changes things, because you got some taco truck, which is A1, but then you have like the restaurants that are like 5-star as well. So there's a couple spots that I definitely would suggest. La Macro with the Thrumple tacos. Those are some of the most authentic ones.
Wait, where is that at?
So it's a food truck. It usually sets up at Bad Astronaut.
Oh, okay.
Most nights, but Saul's from Monterrey. He's perfected the Thrumpo tacos with the pineapple sitting on top, just easing into the meats, and then he makes everything from scratch, from the sauces, tortillas, all of that. Definitely, and we talked about the Miko's hot chicken. Man, that chicken sandwich right there, boy.
What was it, the lemonade?
They had the blueberry lemonade. You gotta get the blueberry lemonade. You gotta get the medium hot chicken sandwich,
Uh-huh.
and it comes with like the coleslaw and all that on there, perfection. And then you got to get the waffle fries, but with the spicy like mayo dipping sauce.
Okay.
And then you got to get the banana pudding. Do not leave out the banana pudding. It's some of the best banana pudding I've had. And then also a shout out to the pit room as well. I feel like there's a lot of barbecue places around the city, and a lot of them are good. But I like the pit room because I feel like they do several things very very well. They pickle their own cucumbers and all that,
Yeah.
and jalapenos, so those taste unique. You know, you be munching on them.
Yeah.
And they'll do different Texas type of dishes like brisket tacos as well. If you want a little spin on the Tex-Mex food, and then like most barbecue places don't, they actually stay open till like 9 o'clock. Like a lot of barbecue places like close at 2.
Yeah, and then it's
so
like
that's important.
You get there too. You have to get there early because then, like the brisket, like the main stuff is sold out by the time you get there.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're open till late. That's good.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. That's late for a barbecue.
Well, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, we got to take notes on that. So I know that there's people out here in Houston that in the industry that you must look up to, or that are also have that same aim at bringing Houston to putting Houston on the map, right? Mm-hmm. Who are those people, and like is there someone that like you would like to collaborate with out here?
So definitely and we've actually worked together on a few things, but Jacob over at Hyde Park, for those who don't know Hyde Park, it's a brand instituted here in Houston. Kind of has the California feel to it, but it started on the east end of Houston, just making a few things for Cool Kicks LA, and now it's in 44 about over 40 stores around the country.
That's crazy.
And now actually expanding to China and Japan, and they just they're probably going to be dropping some items with those countries, and then I believe they might be doing something locally with one of the sports teams as well that should be coming. So a lot of that was accomplished in like 40 over 40 stores in now 3 different countries was all accomplished in about 7 months. The foundation was started from. We were actually in his at his spot working on a collaboration that we were going to do while he was designing the first graphics for it. And now it's like worn by all the celebrities, a lot of the music artists, all over the place. It's a prestigious brand that you can't even buy if you want it. You have to have a passcode in order to be able to purchase it, and it's not cheap either.
Yeah, exclusive. Right. That's crazy.
So I'm really proud of like what he's been able to do. He's a good example of when you execute everything correctly. This is what you can. You have the possibility of reaching those type of heights or whatnot. So it's really good to see. It's really good to see it come out of Houston like that from someone is talented, puts in the work. All of that was able to build something that's a multi-million-dollar company from basically a warehouse and a few people that he's been working with this range.
Yeah. I mean that showcases too like the community, right? Because he collaborated with somebody else, and then it made this wonderful brand, right? So we need to put that into action, right? Maybe we got to tag him something. Definitely put that into manifest that. So our last question, of course, this is Legacy Circle. So what is the legacy or the impact that you want to leave in your community?
So that's a good question. So I definitely want to leave, well, I guess with 2 things mainly. I definitely want to leave a legacy of Houston now has more of a solid identity than it did before, and I wanted that to be done through the clothes, because I mentioned before we didn't really have it was almost like we didn't really have our own identity. We would wear a lot of stuff from other cities, from New York, from LA. Everybody back in the day wore FUBU, Jabot, NYC, a lot of those brands. And a lot of those brands, after a while, I noticed, told the story of where those brands originated, and we were kind of, it's like we were helping them tell their story, and that's why places like New York, the rich keep getting richer, so to speak. Right. Not only are they promoting themselves, but everybody else promotes them too. Like you could have a shirt that just has a tree on it, but you slap NYC on it. Now it's like, oh, it's different, Yeah. And they've really made it to where they command that type of respect whenever they put the name of their city on anything. Diversity versus Diversity New York sounds two different things. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. It's like that place that gives legitimacy to a lot of things. So what I wanted from the brand is for it to give some of that same type of legitimacy to Houston. And when you see the brand, it always reminds you of where it originated. Even after it has expanded, you can see the brand and you kind of are reminded that it started in the diverse city, and we just took the leads and pushing that out to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world. But yeah, I want that legacy to be left on the city that not only has the city grown in so many ways from its versatility, its cultural and food aspect, but it's also grown as a destination or a place that deserves maybe not the same exact type of respect, but definitely have a seat at the table with those brands from New York, Chicago, and LA. So it's, Houston will never be New York per se, but I feel like it's long overdue that we should be sitting at that table with those cities. New York has always represented the East Coast. Chicago has always represented the Midwest. LA, obviously, the West Coast. But when you talked about the Southern United States, for the longest time, it was Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta, going everywhere else except the fourth largest city in the country, the most diverse city in the country, especially in the South. Looking at those other cities and how while they're great cities, a lot of them they're one dimensional. I always ask people this question. Everybody knows that New Orleans has some of the best food in the country, some of the most unique food in the country, especially when you get into like boudin and gumbo, things of that sort. Yeah. But I always ask everyone, outside of New Orleans, outside of Louisiana, where can you get legitimate gumbo or boudin or New Orleans cooking? It's Houston. No other city can say that. That fact alone should set it apart food-wise, culinary, right, from other cities. But then you add in the Thai food, the Vietnamese, the French food, the Nigerian. You have all that on top of that, and it really, when you start piecing that all together and you start looking at Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta, you're like, dude, it's not even close. Yeah. And why was it? It's not even close, but yet we were behind the eight ball for so many years. So I feel like Houston's finally getting those flowers, and I want the brand to kind of the legacy that it leaves to kind of build on that, to kind of just really solidify that for everybody to kind of appreciate and see nationally. And then secondly, the legacy I want to leave is I want to leave something for my daughter to be able to have when she grows up. And I've been teaching her about entrepreneurship from a young age. I bought her like a little play tent food truck so she can at least, she have fun in there. But she has a little fake tacos and burgers and all that, and she starts to understand from a young age. You do your work, you give them your product, and then they pay you for it. So she can at least get that concept from a young age. So hopefully, when she becomes, a young adult, she'll already be kind of like seasoned to be have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I also feel like as a African American, I feel like in our culture, we don't always pass things down to our children. We don't always have things to pass down to our children, and that's not the case that's not the case for everyone, and I've kind of observed that with others and how it is for their kids to be able to not start from nothing once they decide what they want to do, but if they give them some options when they're trying to make those decisions. And if they want it, if she wants it, then there you go. It's set for you to kind of take over the reins. But if not, you can sell it or do what you want to with it. But at least it's there if you want it.
Right. I love that. So where can people follow you? How can we support you? And like, where are you at?
So you definitely have the website, Diverscity Clothing Co. But remember to spell it Diverscity. So it's like diversity or diversity, and then the Clothing Co. That's the website. That's also the Instagram handle and the Facebook handle as well. We do regular pop ups for all the Astros home games at Little Woodrow's Edo by the stadium. And then we're at Post Houston about 2 to 3 times a month as well. We'll do some of the breweries, but wherever we're going to pop up at, we'll definitely announce it on social media, and hopefully by this January we'll have the store again so everybody can shop there, and we can start forming that home base for everyone.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. And that is a wrap of episode 1. Thank you guys.
Episode 1.